battle stations.
Hey guys, this is Rob. I am here at the Arkansas Inland Maritime Museum where they have the USS Razorback and the USS Hoga. So we're going to go in and check everything out and give everyone a look-see. See you on the inside. Alright, this is the hatch you're going to be going down. A couple of things to state beforehand though. First and foremost, the sub is 90% functional. The boat's currently floating under its own power. While you're on board, please refrain from touching any control panels. Second, the ladder we're going down is 12 feet long. Take every rung and do watch out towards the top. It gets a little tight, like to nip at your knees. And lastly, for safety purposes, one person on the ladder at a time. I'll head down first. Alright, you're currently standing in the after torpedo compartment. In here you would have seen stored 8 of the 24 torpedoes in this boat. Alright, a torpedo is 21 feet long, 21 inches in diameter, and it weighs 3,000 pounds. We've got two different examples here, the Mark 14 and the Mark 45, World War II versus Cold War. They're exactly the same in size, weight, and dimension, just a little different technology-wise. The Mark 14 has within it 650 pounds of plastic explosives, and it uses a steam-driven turbine in order to move its propellers. The Mark 45, conversely, has an electric motor for its propellers, and its payload consists of a 20-ton nuclear warhead. Getting the torpedoes into the compartment is a bit of a task. As I said, the ladder we just came down is 12 feet long, can't make use of that. What the crew uses is all the way up in there, called the torpedo loading hatch. A team of 7 to 8 guys using just manpower will lower the torpedoes one at a time from the skid through the hatch down into this compartment. They'll have 4 torpedoes secured to the racks and another 4 in the tubes at the boat's stern, preloaded and ready to go. Now, we move forward to the compartment. I'll draw your attention to this device right here. This is one of the 4 toilets aboard the Razorback. This thing is very special in that it takes 13 separate steps to flush. Get any of those 13 steps wrong, whatever's put into the toilet bowl plus a little extra is going to come flying back at your face in a process called whooshing. Aboard the Razorback, it was common to not show the new guys how to use the toilets. You have to figure out how to use them on your own. Alright, any questions before we move on to the next compartment?
We're good, thank you.
Alright.
Very informative.
Alright, now this is the maneuvering room. It is the power plant of the submarine. Using this console right here, we're going to be both generating and then directing electricity throughout the boat. First up, you've got these 4 black knobs in the center. They control generators in the next 2 compartments. Then you've got these levers. When they're pushed and pulled, they direct this electricity throughout the boat to wherever it's needed. Electricity first goes through batteries for storage before it goes anywhere else, and the vast majority of the electricity the boat generates will go directly beneath us into the motor room. That houses the 2 electric motors that turn the propellers. Using the red and green knobs on the sides of the console, we can control the speed of the motors and thus the speed of the boat by controlling how much electricity actually goes down there. Alright, any questions about this compartment?
How many people were usually in here at one time? It's usually
just 2.
2?
Yes, usually no more.
All right.
Let's head forward. Alright, now this is the after engine compartment. It holds 2 of the 3 original Ford Fairbanks Morris diesel engines. This is an opposed piston diesel engine. It has within it 20 pistons in 10 cylinders. The whole thing is used to turn the generators, the big gray things you see sticking up out of the floor back there. That's how we get the electricity for the boat. Each engine gets its own generator. Now when the diesel engines are in operation, conditions in here are going to be very severe. Temperatures can get in excess of 130 degrees Fahrenheit, and the noise levels will be deafening. These engines put out up to 1,800 horsepower apiece. Anyone working in the compartment after standard patrol will be reporting hearing loss of some kind. This is a recording of one engine on idle. Alright, any questions?
How many crew did you usually have in here? Just
Sometimes 2 to 3 working 8-hour shifts.
okay. Okay.
Alright, let's head forward. Alright, now this is the forward engine compartment. It held another 2 Fairbanks Morris diesel engines. Right here, though, is the Prairie Master. This is a camouflage device that replaced engine number 2 during the Guppy conversion. This thing works by creating bubbles that surround both engine compartments and the propellers, shrouding the boat from any incoming sonar and making it very hard to find. Here is a copy of the battle flag for the Razorback. This is a record of what the boat did during World War II. The first thing to point out is the guy in the center. That's a razorback whale, a red-tinted aquatic mammal that likes to hang out in the southern Pacific Ocean. During World War II, the Navy liked to name its submarines after aquatic animals, and Razorback was the name that was assigned to this boat before construction began back in '43. Moving on to the flags, you see the 12 smaller ones on the sides. They represent the Japanese merchant marine vessels the boat shot down with their deck guns. Down the bottom are the 6 torpedo kills. The 4 on the outside are additional merchant marine vessels, and the 2 in the center, the Rising Suns, are Japanese warships. On the boat's 3rd and 4th patrols, she did lifeguard duty sailing around the Japanese coast looking for downed aircraft and possible survivors. Doing this, her crew was able to save the lives of 5 U.S. airmen, 4 off a B-29 bomber and 1 off of a P-51 Mustang. The guys aboard the Razorback loved it when they saved someone because when the rescued airmen were taken back into port, the Air Corps would reward everyone with massive amounts of ice cream. Moving on, we come to these 2 devices. Water purifiers. These are Badger X1 water distillation units. They produce 1,000 gallons of fresh water a day apiece, but there's a pecking order to the water when it comes out of the tanks. At the very top, you've got the engines and the batteries that are water-cooled. Below that is crew hydration. Below that is cooking. Then at the very bottom is hygiene. Aboard this boat, you're lucky to get a 20-second shower every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Any questions?
Not at the moment. If I think it's something, I'll let you know.
All right, let's head forward. Alright, so this is the after battery compartment. It's called so because we've got one of the 2 lead-acid batteries for the boat stored directly beneath us. And here's crew's berthing, 36 of the 75 bunks on board the boat. Now the crew complement for the Razorback is 60 enlisted men, 6 officers, and the captain. However, they'd also have additional men on board training or qualifying to work on here. This means the numbers would average out 80 to 85, but during World War II they once swelled up to 107. In order to make sure everyone has a place to sleep, they practice hot racking, 3 men rotating out of 2 bunks. It's called hot racking because just as soon as one guy hops out to go to work, another guy hops right back in to go to bed, ensuring the bunks never have a chance to cool down over the course of a patrol. Alright, let's head forward. This is the crew's mess. This is where guys come to hang out and keep out of the way when they're not working. They'll be playing games, reading books, watching movies, doing anything they can to keep themselves occupied when they're off duty. The way the meal services work out down here is crewmen will get lined up down that hallway. When it's a guy's turn, they'll come in and sit down with up to 15 other people. Once all 16 are seated, Another crewman, the mess crank, is going to come along with a giant platter of food and load up everyone's plate with whatever they want. It's all you can eat down here. The food is also very high in quality. It's not uncommon to have lobster and steak multiple times a week. The reason it's like this is because submarine service is extremely dangerous, but it's also completely voluntary. Even during the drafts, you are only on a sub if you want to be, so they have to find ways to make guys want to be down here, and food is one of the primary ways they can accomplish this. The highest food allowance in the armed services is allotted to the submarine force to allow for this to happen. Alright, now, any questions about the after battery compartment?
No, I do have a question on how creative were they in requisitioning things in the past?
By requisitioning, you mean?
Like the 5-finger discount. Was any kind of history of that in?
You mean stealing from port, others?
Requisitioning from creative requisitioning from different sources for during wartime.
Not really, no. There wasn't really much of that. A submarine was almost completely isolated. It's the kind of thing to where once that hatch was shut, when they left port, it didn't open back up until they got back into port. They would also have a large metal plate called a doubler bolted over the hull to keep people, well, the side effect was keeping people from getting out, but mainly it was to protect against depth charges that could rip the top hatch to shreds and sink the boat.
Okay.
There was only one hatch that would have been open and be able to regularly use, and that one was on the top of the conning tower that led into the sail. That was one that a lookout could use to go up to the top of the sail or up to the bridge, depending on which configuration you're talking about, in order to do lookout duties. But he's usually the only one that's allowed outside of the boat. Unless they were doing major maintenance, then everyone stayed inside and no one went outside for any reason, because stealth is a big thing with submarines, and you're not going to be spending much time on the surface.
Okay. All right.
All right. Any other questions?
No, we're good right now. Thank
All
you.
right. Let's head on forward. Now this is the control room. If you have a look at the boat, well, this model of the boat, as she was during World War II, you can get an idea of where we are in it right now. We came into this hatch, walked all the way along here, and this is where we are right now, directly beneath the sail. You've walked over half the length of a football field so far on your tour. This boat is 311 feet 9 inches long. Now directly beneath us, access through the hatch in the floor over here, you've got the sonar shack. It's a very tiny operation. One sonar jockey is seated down there listening to active and passive sonar, trying to figure out what's going on outside of the boat. During World War II, a properly trained sonar jockey can hear a jellyfish fluttering up to 12 miles off. In the modern era, it is more along the lines of being able to discern the make and model of the individual diesel engines used on the cargo ships coming out of New York Harbor. A properly trained sonar jockey can discern that from Holy Loch, Scotland. Now, up the ladder behind you is the conning tower. Got a picture of it here. Up there you have all the other navigational equipment. You've got 2 periscopes, navigational and tactical periscopes. They're used for steering the boat and aiming torpedoes respectively. You also have the radar equipment, and over here you've got the torpedo data computer and the fire control panel. The torpedo data computer is used to crunch the numbers to help with aiming torpedoes, and the fire control panel is the actual device that the captain uses in order to shoot torpedoes. At the very back of the conning tower is a tiny little table wedged into the corner. That is the DRT, or Dead Reckoning Tracer. It's an extremely sophisticated charting table that the quartermaster uses with his maps in order to help with navigation. At the front of the conning tower is this big red wheel called the helm station. It is essentially the steering wheel. Turn this in order to maneuver the rudder on the back that makes the boat go left and right through hydraulics. Now, all the equipment in here is used for diving and surfacing. First up, you've got all the levers in the wall right here. They control the valves on the ballast tanks. So you see there are tanks called ballast tanks on the outside of the hull. Take note, they are completely open on the bottom. Pulling those levers opens valves up at the top, allowing water to rush in, push air out, and thus the boat is no longer buoyant. It can submerge. Then we got the brass tubing over there, collectively called the air manifold. It is used to channel high pressure air throughout the boat. High pressure and low pressure air throughout the boat. One of its primary functions is to force air back into the ballast tanks. That forces the water out the bottom, making the boat buoyant enough to come back up to the surface. Here we've got these two big red wheels. They control the diving planes. These sideways rudders at the very front and at the very back of the sub. They control the angle of the boat as it dives and surfaces. Then finally, we've got the most important piece of equipment for a dive, the hull openings board right here. It's also called the Christmas tree because of all the pretty red and green lights on it. If we're going to want a successful dive, we're going to want an all green board. Any red lights on here means that something is open and the boat is just going to be sinking. Alright, any questions?
Nothing so far as of yet, but...
Alright, the last thing to talk about in here are these three switches. They control the alarms on the boat. First up, you've got the general quarters alarm that when it's sounded off before we do anything major, it tells people to get to their stations. Then we have the collision alarm that when it's sounded off 1 minute before we dive or surface, sounded twice to go down, 3 times to come back up. My apologies, I had a brain fart there. This is the collision alarm. It is sounded off if we're about to be crashing into another boat or hitting land. This is the one you never want to hear. The dive alarm is the one in the center, and that's the one that we sound twice to go down, 3 times to come back up. Do you want to hear it today?
Sure.
Alright, here we go. Here we are. Okay. Let's head on up to the next compartment. Alright, now this is the forward battery compartment. It's also called Officer's Country because this is where the captain and the officers are going to be sleeping. First up in here, though, is the yeoman shack. This is the secretary's office. The guy in here is typing up all the paperwork that's needed to keep the boat up and running. Most importantly, he's the guy in charge of the paychecks. And here's the goat locker. This is where the senior enlisted men are going to be sleeping. They're all called old goats. It's an ironic name. They're said to have long white beards, even though on average they are 30 to 35 years old. And coming forward, and here is the captain's stateroom. He's got the nicest room on board. All the little extras for someone of his high rank can be seen in there. The captain's got his own private desk, his own private sink, and extra headroom so he can actually sit up in bed. Then in here is the wardroom. This is a multi-purpose area where the captain and the officers have all the get-togethers throughout the day. This is where they have all their meetings, all their meals, and this is also the first aid station. This is where you come if you get severely ill. The worst that has been seen on that table is a rotten tooth removal. However, other Belated class subs have seen as bad as an appendix removal. It's also worth noting that there are no doctors or medics on board, just corpsmen trained in the same level of first aid you'd see with an EMT.
Okay.
All right, any questions?
No, we're good right now for a moment.
All right. Let's head on forward then. Directly after this next hatch is a step down. Please be aware of that as you're going through it. All right, now, this is the forward torpedo compartment in here. You would see 16 of the 24 torpedoes stored within the boat. 10 on racks, including 2 beneath your feet under the floor, and another 6 in the forward tubes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, preloaded and ready to go. Shooting a torpedo follows this very general process. You get the torpedo on the rack, line it up, you'll pull it forward into the tube using ropes and pulleys. Once it's in there, you close the door, turn the rim to seal it, seal the tube up that is, and then you will flood everything with water using the levers up at the top. Once the tubes are completely flooded, you come over to the side alcoves and pull those levers that opens the doors at the front of the sub. Once all this is accomplished, the captain in the conning tower is going to go over to the fire control panel to operate it. This is a backup, but it looks almost exactly like this. The captain turns the larger black knobs, the tubes he wants primed, and then he will pull the trigger. That launches a pulse of water into the tube that pushes the torpedo out and forward. Once the torpedo has cleared the sub, then its motor kicks on and it goes out to its intended target. All right. Any questions about this compartment or torpedoes in general?
How many torpedoes were usually carried on board during wartime?
24 is the max.
Okay.
For this boat, in some you could fit an additional 8 by filling up the center space here with more racks, but that completely takes away any extra space that the crew has.
And how many crew members usually did it take to get a torpedo loaded?
Loaded? 728 to get it loaded down in here. However, you're usually looking at more along the lines of 2 to 3 to get one loaded into the tube.
Okay. So you had 7, 8 to load them in here, and then 2 to 3 to get them into the tubes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's see the hot racks and the bunks. How many crew stay down here at all times usually?
Like I said before, you're usually looking at an average crew size of 80 to 85, and they're all going to be in here. As far as operations-wise, at any given point, at least a third of them are going to be working, another third sleeping, and the last third just keeping out of the way. But they all will be down in here. Majority of them will be trying to fit either in this compartment or in the crew's mess.
Okay. All right. Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
No further questions at this time.
All right. Okay. Now, this is going to be how we'll be getting out of the boat today. This is the escape trunk. The ladder itself is 14 feet up to the top, but you'll see this smaller compartment that is used for escape maneuvers. Fit 5 guys up in there, flooded up to the neck with seawater, and then they can that equalizes the pressure inside with the ocean outside so that they can open up that side hatch and swim out to safety. Pull this lever, that closes that side door from the inside, so the last guy out doesn't have to worry about it. And you pull this lever, that empties all the seawater from in there down into the lower part of this compartment so that we can open the hatch and repeat the process.
Okay.
All right. All right. Do you have any last questions for me before I let you go?
No. Is it possible to go on board the Hoga, or is it still?
It's still being worked on. We don't have it open to the public yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
When do you expect it to be open? Or
That's above my pay grade.
Okay.
They honestly do not have a date currently set for that.
okay.
All right.
All right.
Now, I would suggest you head over to the building, the Maritime Museum, and have some great exhibits in it.
Okay.
That is everything. Thank you for coming out today.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, that is the Razorback. Interesting tour. About 20 minutes long. Some good information. Unfortunately, the Hoga is undergoing restoration and they're not allowing visitors on board her, but we can still go over and take a look, see, and get a closer examination and some good pictures maybe.